Hi everyone, Professor Minglu back here again with another exciting video. So every year, many of my accounting students come to me with recruiting questions. Almost all of them want to go into public accounting, whether it be at a Big Four CPA firm or one of the global mid-tier firms such as Grant Thornton, BDO Seaman, Baker Tilly, etc. Right? Their primary issue is that they have a hard time deciding which service line to go into, whether it be audit, tax, or advisory services. Since most of my students really struggle with this issue, especially on deciding between audit and tax, I decided to make a video with two accounting professionals from the firm Grant Thornton on how to help students get a better idea of both service lines. So for those of my viewers who don't know about Grant Thornton, it is actually the world's seventh largest accounting firm by revenue. They have offices all across the world and provide a full line of accounting services, including audit and tax. With me today from Grant Thornton is Rustin O'Neill, Audit Senior, and Aaron Abash, Tax Senior. Rustin did his undergraduate degree at UCLA, majoring in political science. He later got his master's degree in accounting at USC. Aaron also did his undergraduate degree at UCLA, majoring in economics. He later got his master's degree in taxation at USC. So as you can see, both gentlemen have very similar backgrounds. The only difference is that one chose to go into audit and the other one chose to go into tax. So Aaron and Rustin, thank you both for coming to do this video with me today. All right, so let's get started with the questions. Rustin, you work in audit. Aaron, you work in tax. Having said that, I have a few questions for you that would hopefully give my viewers a glimpse of what you do and what your life is like. So first, can each of you briefly talk about your service line?
Yeah. Hi, May. Nice to meet you, and the rest of the students. Nice to meet you all, albeit virtually. Audit or assurance, as some firms may call it, is the review of the financial statements of a company, whether it be public or private. And our job is to verify that they are in accordance with GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles, and that they're free from material misstatements. There are different rules which govern our audit procedures, namely the PCLB or AICPA, which you'll become entirely familiar with as you continue your professional career in accounting.
Yeah, and tax is, primarily focused on compliance, following the rules set forth by the Internal Revenue Code that's written by Congress, and then by the commentary provided by the Internal Revenue Service, who kind of make sure that everybody's following those rules that were put down. And then on top of that, we also do some different tax consulting work, whether it may be assisting with mergers and acquisitions, doing, different due diligence, as well as also potentially helping a company restructure from a tax thinking perspective.
Wonderful. Both of you are senior level accountants. However, can you tell my students what you did on a day-to-day basis when you first started off as a staff level accountant? And then afterwards, when you got promoted to senior level position, can you tell me what your task then changed to be?
Yeah, sure thing. I think from a first year standpoint, the one thing that you're really going to be doing in the audit capacity is you're going to be learning the assertions of auditing, which is there's 5 assertions which you'll come to learn, which are completeness, accuracy, existence, rights and obligations, and presentation and disclosure. So when you start learning about these assertions, you essentially will start understanding why we do the work we do, and you'll start beginning to prepare work papers, start learning to document our procedures, and your senior will hand in hand guide you along the way so that you understand and you pick up on the different aspects of auditing. And really, when you transition into a senior role, you pick up on 2 different responsibilities now. So the first being responsibility as a senior is to manage the engagement, which is managing the expectations really among the team, maximizing the utility of your team, setting goals, deadlines, responsibilities, etc. Communication among your team internally. So you want to create, you have to create those effective and efficient communication lines between the entire team, because not managers, seniors, and auditors are always together all the same time. So you want to make sure that you're creating efficient communication lines, and you want to provide constructive feedback to your teams. That's another thing that you do as a senior. And another piece of managing engagement is you communicate with the client. You're the liaison between the client and the team for the most part. However, you support the manager as well in that aspect as well. And then the second responsibility of a senior is performing the audit. There's a lot of review of your team's work that you delegate to first year associates, even second year associates. But there is another aspect of that, which is also that you still continue to perform a lot of those audit procedures, which are more complex. The ones that typically tend to have a higher level of risk. And those responsibilities continue to carry over as a senior and into a manager level as well.
Yeah, so I can talk about from a tax perspective. Obviously there's some similarities between tax and audit in terms of the responsibilities. When you first come in as a tax associate, you're going to go through a number of different trainings. I think the first week is basically an entire week of training, and then there's also a conference that we send you off to that features additional training, especially on specific tax business lines such as partnerships, C Corp tax, state and local tax, etc. A lot of the work you're going to be doing has to do with work paper preparation. And so that has to do, with putting together all the different materials we need in order to effectively take the documents that, like audit went through and determine was book income. And then we take that and we make the appropriate calculations to determine what taxable income would be for that entity so that they can then file their taxes. So you're going to be doing a lot more creation of that work paper. And then maybe you do some light review of things we get from the client. But when you become a senior, the associate tends to be the one preparing the work paper. You're going to do a lot more reviewing and just deeper analysis into, what the client is facing, what different scenarios they have going on, and, what maybe next steps we can do or how we need to approach or comply with different tax situations. I think the last kind of big thing as an associate is you kind of learn how to work within a team, how to communicate with your senior, potentially with the client as well, and then doing some light research and analysis on different topics that the senior might say we want more information on. And once you get to the senior level, you kind of become that point person for the entire engagement, coordinating with the associate, with the manager, partner above you, communicating with the client, hopping on phone calls, and then, if you need to do research and analysis, getting into kind of like meatier topics that are much more complex.
Well, great. My next question is, when it comes time for recruiting season, whether it be an internship or a full-time job offer, many of my students have a hard time deciding whether to apply for audit or tax or advisory services. Some of them, especially those who have to apply for an internship, actually never even took an audit or tax class. So how did you decide on which service line to go into? And do you have any advice to my students on how they can decide which is the best service line for them to go into? Rustin, maybe you can go first, and then Aaron, you can follow up with your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a very difficult decision for everybody. For me personally, I think you would want to keep your end goal in mind. What I say, or what I mean by your end goal, is what do you want to achieve in your professional career, and also what suits your current lifestyle and your preferences. And it's a difficult task when you're a fresh college grad, because you really don't know what you're doing most of the time until you start working and you begin your career. But as you progress in your professional career, you learn what you want, and you also learn your needs. And specifically in audit and advisory, and to some degree, you learn a lot about a company's operations. You gain the mastery of communication and leadership. And that mastery of communication and leadership is very key and fundamental to any professional career. And as those soft skills really carry over. And the last piece would be, the financial and operational literacy that you gain in audit and advisory. And I think those financial and operational literacies are very key to your choice of going into these service lines, because they allow you to learn not beyond the basis of just accounting. They allow you to learn the operational aspects of the company, which allows you to take and venture off into different roles in the professional capacity. So that was the main reason I picked audit, is because I love the ability to go into different fields, but also gain the understanding of a business and industry and be able to make managerial decisions without having to know the full picture.
Aaron?
Yeah, so for me, tax personally, I was fortunate enough to take a tax class before I interned, and it was something that I just really enjoyed sitting in and learning the material. And it was something that I felt came naturally to me, but obviously you may not get that opportunity before you get your internship. So I think one of the biggest things is like your travel preferences. If you're somebody that prefers to go to the office every day, that kind of has set routines, does things in a certain order, I think tax is very good for that, because pretty much I'm in the office every day. I see everybody's beautiful face every day. It's kind of that kind of environment where you're working on engagements with all different people throughout tax. Tax is a less labor intensive per engagement service. So what I mean by that is you need more hands and more hours per each audit engagement than you do necessarily for tax, for even if you're talking about the same client. And so because of that, what ends up happening is that we work on multiple engagements at a given time, sometimes upwards of 10 to 15 even at a time, which I know sounds scary, but it's a normal amount of work. And I think also it's just kind of the type of work that you'd be working on, whether or not you want to be, looking more at financial statements and getting into those weeds and reviewing them, or if you'd like to be, digging into the Internal Revenue Code and doing research on that, and with potentially some consulting.
Well, yeah, Aaron, I was going to say, I also have a background in tax, and I think I preferred tax over audit because of the fact that I would like to go into the office and see the same folks again. People who are a little bit more adventurous, I think audit, going to different client sites may be right up their alley. So thank you for sharing that. So my next question is, I know a lot of my students will be applying for an internship or a full-time job offer at your firm, Grant Thornton, in the near future. Can each of you just share why Grant Thornton is a great place to work? I know you probably can think of several reasons, but due to the interest of time, could you just share your number one reason why you feel Grant Thornton is just a fantastic place to work at?
Yeah, that definitely, it's abundance of reasons, but I think it comes down to one thing for me, which is what I call true humility. It's the willingness of everyone to want to help each other out. Everybody's humble about their experience, and they're going to be willing to train you so you're able to take those next steps in your professional career. It's something that you don't normally experience in a lot of places. I think everybody that has helped me has really understood that, like, I've been in that position. I was young. I was a young professional who didn't know anything. So I get where you're coming from, and you know what? I'm going to help you, get to a better place so that you don't feel out of place, that you are able to master the concepts of accounting or in auditing. Like, that willingness of everyone to just really take the time out of their day and help each other I just felt a different camaraderie, and I continue to feel that different camaraderie than I could feel at most places in general. So for me, it's just the true humility of the people at Grant Thornton.
Yeah, so I mean, well, my number one is kind of an echo of what Rustin just said. Honestly, the biggest thing for me at Grant Thornton is it's the people and the culture and the atmosphere that they create there. I was a transfer student before I went to UCLA. I transferred in from Los Angeles Pierce College, so I've kind of been in your shoes where you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. You don't know what you're going towards. And I remember going to their Meet the Firms event, and there's so many different companies there, and it's a 3-hour event. But I think I ended up spending about 45 minutes just at Grant Thornton, talking to every single person there, and every single person I had an unbelievable conversation with, and I was just like, I really like these people and I really want to work with them. And during while working at a public accounting firm, you're going to have some late nights during busy season, and I think it's so important that you really just like the people that you work with. And so just kind of being in an environment where you not only like the people you work with, but everybody's kind of a part of a team where, and this is what Rustin was getting at, is that, you know, I'm not worried that somebody's out here trying to make me look bad. When I don't understand something, somebody's right there to just help me and like, make me understand. It's kind of that mentality of rising tides raise all ships. Like if I help you learn, then we all grow together.
Okay.
Right. Well, I got a last question for you guys. Both of you are very successful individuals, both academically and professionally. I mean, you all went to great schools. You passed a very difficult CPA exam, and both of you are gonna. I know you're gonna have a great career ahead of you in accounting. So, do you have academically and professionally? I know you probably have a lot of tips to give, but could each of you just give one tip for success academically, and then one tip for success in the professional world?
Yeah, I would say professionally, the best tip I can give you is you have to learn to love the process and not the end result. When you learn about the process, it's more fulfilling, it's more rewarding. Because if you're in it just for the end result, it's easier to fail and not really understand the purpose of why you're going through these steps in your professional career, whether it be learning why the assertions are why we have to test these assertions, why the PCLB even exists. Like these little things add up, and when you learn to love that process instead of the end result, it helps you achieve so much more in your professional career. And I think academically, the biggest one I could stay is like, and that's going for many places, very similar to my colleague Aaron, is going to a community college, to UCLA, to being at USC in grad school, is don't stress out. When I say don't stress out, I mean things are going to happen. There are going to be some stepping stones that you don't necessarily reach, or exams that you may fail, but that doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to retool, re-equip, mentally prepare yourself again and go at it again. Because each time you don't succeed at something, it's an opportunity for you to do better at it the next time, or focus or change your habits, and be ready for the next time. So I think those are the two biggest tips I can give from my standpoint.
So for me personally, and I 100% agree with everything Rustin just said. But I think one of the biggest things you have to do academically, and this is something that's going to carry over into your professional career as well, is to ask why. Why do you do things? Don't just simply look there and memorize for a test and then forget it the second it's done. And I know I personally did that at times. Everybody's done it. Don't try and pretend like you haven't. But it's so important, especially if you're looking to build a career in accounting, to actually try and understand why you're doing something, to sit there and look at it from that foundational perspective. Because if you take that time to figure out why, it becomes so much easier to apply it to all different kinds of situations. And that's so key when you get it out into your professional career, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be looking at things in a vacuum like the same way you see them at school, where you're focusing on isolated events. You have to take, maybe 5 different things happening all at once and dissect how each one is impacting, and then what the next steps you need to take are. So understanding why is going to benefit you academically as well as professionally later on, if it's a habit that you build now. And then just quickly for professional wise, I'd say also just don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think one of the biggest or the most difficult transitions from school to the workplace is that we're always trying to be perfect, to the point where sometimes it's like we'll spend an hour on something that should only take 15 minutes, but it's because we're trying to get it exactly perfect. And there's a reason why there's multiple levels of review. It's because it's okay that if you don't 100% understand something and you might make mistakes, it's just part of the learning process.
Well, gentlemen, hey, thank you so much for coming today to make this video and helping my students discern whether they should go into tax or an audit. And I know that's a very difficult choice that I had to make when I was younger, and also now my students will be making. So I really appreciate your time. I know you guys are both super busy individuals. I was thinking, since you guys both went to USC and UCLA, maybe a future video topic will be trying to decide which school to go into. Just kidding. Maybe that's not a good idea. That'd be too controversial. But anyway, thanks so much for coming. And maybe some of my students will see you in some recruiting event. Again, Grant Thornton is an awesome firm to work for. So both of you represented Grant Thornton really well today. All right. So thanks, and have a good rest of your day.